I'd like to start with the respective president of HOTREC. Dear Mr. President, restriction on travel introduced in response of COVID-19 pandemic are slowly being eased, allowing tourism to restart in growing number of destinations. The latest research by the World Tourism Organization shows that 22% of all destinations worldwide have started to ease restrictions, with Europe leading the way. At the same time, however, 65% of all destinations worldwide continue to have their borders completely closed to international tourism. And I'd like to know, our audience as well, what is the lockdown and reopening timeline and general situation in Europe? So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for the opportunity to be with you today and to speak. And as we all know, the coronavirus has affected the whole of Europe. This set the reactions in the EU and in the individual member states. They vary and they have shifted. In HOTREC, we have a list of about 77 reactions and meetings in the EU, which could be highlighted, but of course the time does not allow for this today. But I can mention that the EU Health Security Committee, ESC, was on the scene early and already on January 31st, asked the member states to report if they were concerned about a potential shortage of protective equipment. But only 4 countries reported back at the time. At the same time, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Charles Michel, they were primarily occupied with other agendas well into March. One of these being the resurgent refugee crisis on the border between Turkey and Greece. On January 31st, most European media were also busy covering the British last day in the EU. What few noticed was that the UK registered its first case of COVID-19 the same date. I have a slide which I would like you to show, Bonnie, if possible.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, but that's okay. And when we look at the impact of the crisis on a regional level, we were the first sector that was hurt, and we were hurt the worst, and we are also most likely being among the latest, which will be allowed to operate under normal conditions again. As we all know, during March, June 2020, most businesses closed, either due to government restrictions or no clients. Airlines stopped flying, and most countries closed their borders for non-essential travel. And Eurostat figures now show the full extent of the COVID-19 crisis on hotels. In April of this year, in most European countries, occupancy rates were down at around being only 5%. And the number of overnight stays were 95 to 99% lower than the ones we saw in April of last year. European countries have taken different approaches towards hotels. In some countries, they were allowed to remain open. For instance, in Belgium, Italy, Germany, and Denmark. And in other countries, they were forced to close, in Spain, in the UK. And regardless of government measures, a very large or high proportion of hotels closed due to lack of bookings. For example, in Italy, 95% of hotels were closed in May, and in Germany, only 35% of hotels remained open. On the restaurant side, companies have been open, restaurants have been open only to do takeaway or home delivery services. Overall, companies have reported a loss in turnover between 80 and 90% in the period between March and May, and some companies 100% simply because they closed. The European Commission for now estimate a possible loss of 6 million jobs, which if we take the whole of the travel agency would amount to about 25% of the people employed. When you talk about a crisis, there are many ways of measuring what is going on. We can talk about a loss in GNP, loss in jobs, loss in turnover. Another way of doing it, or one way of doing it, is to look at the impact on tourist arrivals globally. And there UNWTO have a calculation which I find is both interesting and scary. Back in 2003, when we had the SARS crisis, there was a loss of arrivals of about 3 million, which amounts to minus 0.4%. In 2009-10, when we had the global economic crisis, there was a loss of 37 million arrivals, which amounts to 4%. In connection with the 2020 COVID-19 crisis, the estimate is a loss now of arrivals of 30%, which amounts to 440 million. That's on a worldwide basis. And that means basically that we are back to where we were 10 years ago. That is what I can say for now about the general impact of the crisis. But of course, the biggest problem facing businesses, us all, is liquidity. And liquidity problems that are so large and so big that cannot alone be solved by credit lines. But that is another matter which has to do with future recovery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jens. Thank you, Mr. President. And I know that HOTREC was doing a lot of actions together with the members in order to get the European Union support to hospitality and tourism industry during like the lockdown and post-pandemic. What were the actions actually taken, and will the industry benefit out of it?
First of all, we have to realize and remember that the European Union, when they do take actions, it is done by way of packages like the tourist and transport package we saw, I believe was May 13th, which has to do with a coordinated approach to open the internal EU borders. Later in May, a recovery plan was launched, and that had to do with how to raise money by temporarily lifting ceilings on the EU gross national income compared to death. The EU does not grant money directly to our industry, but has packages which are supporting the national members. And there have been some packages already, but we are now all waiting for what has been called a second Marshall Plan, which are being negotiated these days in Brussels. And here we are talking, I believe, 750 billion euro, which has to be employed either by the form of grants or in the form of loans. How that ends, of course, is important. In Hotrec, we have lobbied and argued to the EU that, say, 20% of the packages should be reserved for tourism. But we have not succeeded in having that in writing, and in the end, it will be up to the individual governments how to use the funds. And it has always been like that, and I think it will, for now, be difficult to change. There's also a so-called REACT mechanism with a budget of 55 billion, which are supposed to benefit the tourist sector at a national level. But again, it is up to the various national governments to employ. Otherwise, we have argued for reduced VAT rates and also relaxation on taxes. And these are also things which have been implemented already in a number of countries.
Yep, thank you very much. And what about the recovery trends and strategies in EU countries? Could you tell us about that?
Well, we are in the beginning of a state of recovery. I had another slide you may show where we are looking a little bit on the time schedule, but I think we are already behind because I don't think, as it is now, that we will arrive at a new normal already this autumn. I think a new normal will be at the earliest next year, and then there will be another couple of years for the business to recover. And don't ask me what a new normal is, because nobody knows that yet. But it will certainly not be the normal that we knew. We are a little bit in a chicken and hen situation here, because in order for business to recover, we need people. People need to travel, and it is yet uncertain whether travel patterns have changed. Some people are dying to travel. They miss it. And some people are afraid to travel because they're afraid to die. How that will end, only the future can answer. But all countries for now in Europe, they are having campaigns saying that their nationals, they should stay home and enjoy the summer at home. And at the same time, everybody are trying to attract a few foreign travelers. One thing which needs to recover, that is the airlines. And as you know, a lot of packages have been, a lot of loans have been granted to airlines. All the same, they are letting people off. They are cutting down on the number of planes. A few days ago, I saw a headline stating that the Copenhagen airport have now recovered 40% of the routes. They were back in Copenhagen. But if you looked at it, it was correct that there were 40% of the destinations were back, but previously you had maybe 4 or 6 flights a day, and now you have maybe 2 flights a week. So there's a long way to go before we are back to something normal. And I would say the biggest danger is that the COVID-19 would return in a second or even a third wave. And I think when we look at, say, 2023, in order for things to be back to normal, we need a vaccine, and a vaccine that works before I think we will return to, a new normal.
Yeah, Thank you so much, Jens, for this comprehensive information. And yet, I think everybody thinks the same way, that the new normal will come in next years. So we have to get ready. And I'd like to thank from here the HOTREC staff and its president and everybody for making a tremendous job, for bringing information. Since this problem is global, we get a lot of news and we share them as well. So the recovery should be, I think, the same with all the countries. And here we represent actually different countries. We have Azerbaijan, we have Turkey, we have Georgia and Switzerland, which actually will share their best practices and their experience during this COVID. I'd like to, as in Eurovision, move to Azerbaijan now in the name of Florian Denkschmidt, who represents the Azerbaycan Tourism Bureau as its CEO. And I think he will share with us the tourism recovery plan of Azerbaijan and what future will look like in Azerbaijan tourism. Please, Florian.
Wonderful good afternoon from sunny Baku. Mr. President, thank you very much for your time and sharing with us these insights. Dear colleagues from Georgia, Turkey, Switzerland, warm greetings from here in Baku on behalf of the State Tourism Agency and the Azerbaijan Tourism Board. I will share my screen. Nuray, if you allow me to share the screen, please.
Yes, you can do it now.
Allow me to give you a quick overview of what the situation means in Azerbaijan, what is happening, what we're doing. But before really going into COVID-19 and possible recovery strategies, let me start with the good news from last year, which was an incredible year for tourism in Azerbaijan. All-time records, 3.2 million arrivals, plus 11.4%, especially from European markets, an average of 20 to 25%. So, even in Jan-Feb this year, 70% increase over the same period, 2019. Then in March, arrivals dropped by 62% and starting April already by 92% until Azerbaijan completely closed its borders. Until now, borders remain closed while some specific service flights have been started in the past weeks. Also from a hospitality perspective, 642 hotels operating in 2019, a slight increase of 7.7% compared to the year before. One third of the hotels located in Baku, and also the overnights in hotels increased by 10%, which is roughly a split from in total 1.9 million, 70% on foreigners, 30% on domestic. And also revenue increased fairly over from 2019 to 2018. So 2019 was a great year. 2020 will review our strategy. We have quite early adopted a recovering plan for tourism industry, and for now these 4 phases from lockdown to domestic tourism to gradual reopening and recovery, we are still somewhere between the first and the second phase. Borders are still closed. Regional tourism is only permitted with special e-permit system. So basically, we have not yet launched our domestic tourism campaign. And looking at a bigger picture and timeline, I could not agree more on like a very slow recovery beyond 2021 towards 2023, what we also foresee for Azerbaijan. Most important for us was to support the industry. We are still working on additional support schemes, which will be released soon. These are some of the highlights. What we have agreed with other government agencies, and will continue to do so over the next years. And also, Jens, what you mentioned about a further stipulation in terms of tax schemes, etc. This is what we're looking at to integrate into the new tax code also for 2021. Tourism will be definitely have some incentives in there. In this lockdown phase, we have launched, I think it was end of April, quite soon, our Sahman program. Sahman in Azerbaijani means tidiness, very, very clean. In English, the abbreviation stands for sanitation and hygiene methods and norms. It's a program we have developed based on World Health Organization criteria and other benchmarks, basically, we have taken from other countries, hotel chains, etc., and integrated into a program which doesn't only look at hotels, but also includes guides, transportation services, so the entire core value chain in tourism. And the program is certified and also audited by PwC. So we have an external partner engaged to make sure that this is all transparent and all coherent in terms of implementation. Participating partners basically pass a training, pass an audit, and are getting certified with this Sahman label, which will help us hopefully not only during domestic travel, but also beyond, to restore a bit of this confidence, what Jens mentioned, that people really start traveling again and moving again, and rely that sanitation and hygiene is fully in place. Once interregional travel is allowed in Azerbaijan, we are launching a Macera Yakhendade campaign, which means adventure is near, and is fully basically ready on a fingerprint. But again, as long as travel is only linked to e-permit system, we don't see really a reason to fully launch a domestic campaign yet. The current situation, let me start with flights. As I mentioned before, there is service flights for citizens, Azerbaijani citizens, and residents, card holders of the Republic of Azerbaijan. So there is some 6 flights, I think, per week to Istanbul, and London started operating yesterday, 1 flight per week, and the same to Berlin. And Fly Dubai also will resume its operations to Baku-Dubai route. These flights, again, are non-tourism related flights. These are only service flights with prior COVID PCR testing, both on departure and on arrival, and only for nationals or residence card holders. So for now, we don't have any international, basically, tourism or business travel in place. Situation on accommodation, hotels are operating. So hotels basically never stopped or ceased operations in Azerbaijan. They have to follow TÜROB criteria. TÜROB is the agency under the Ministry of Health, which have released and implemented very strict criteria on how hotels should be operated. These criteria we've integrated into our Sahman program, and basically hotels can operate under these criteria. Realistically, not many hotels are operating because simply there is no travel allowed within the country, so it doesn't make sense for many hotels to open. Landmarks and touristic sites, everything is operational since 18th of May, but with the restriction that during the special quarantine regime, which is still in place, all of these sites are not functioning. So as soon as the special quarantine regime is lifted, we will reopen also with the sites. Two mega sports events which were planned for Baku this year, Euro 2020. We have new dates. Fingers crossed that 2021, the dates are in place. And also for F1, we expect F1 to return to Baku in 2021 again, since 2020 race was cancelled. Our priority project, let me start with accommodation. We're now in the process of reviewing a professional network of rural accommodation units. So basically go the step further from hotels, also to look at non-hotel accommodation, especially with rural guest houses, village guest houses, to develop new standards and also a booking platform for these guest houses. We will support still this year with upgrade as a lighthouse project, kind of to focus on bathroom and toilet project, to really also support them with an infrastructural investment project, and to implement capacity building programs. 2 weeks ago, we have launched our National Tourism Training and Certification Center. You would find this on tourismboard.az. For now, only online regime, but as soon as we can travel and also accept trainings in the live and on-site mode, will be holding trainings. Focused for now on hospitality sector. We've partnered with the State Agency on Vocational Education, also thanks to Upshur Hotel Group and JW Marriott, the GIZ from Germany, partners who are supporting this training center. Other ongoing projects, think we have learned, like many others, to go digital. Digital is a must, and we're pushed, like e-learning platforms, one of them, a lot of virtual experiences for end consumers, travelers on salambaku.travel or azerbaijan.travel. And one focus we are really keeping up is we have to do a lot of our homework still. We continue to invest in the development of the infrastructure. We have currently infrastructure development projects in the rollout, visitor center, Map Volcano, Chinalike Mountain Village, Pascal, a natural reserve, archaeological reserve. We're upgrading roadside infrastructure, developing a domestic booking platform. So all basically what was due and a bit pushed back because of our international presence, we have basically now prioritized to be ready for the recovery, reopen as soon as it happens. I think this was hopefully a quick outlook, overview of the status quo. And we truly do hope that we soon can speak about reopening. Recovery will take us longer. Yes, we're aware of that, but also important that we don't give up and keep holding the sector together, and especially hospitality, travel industry, and support them as much as we can. That as soon as it restarts, the new normal, as you said, that also Azerbaijan is ready to go. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we'll be happy to answer some questions in the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Florian, for this insightful presentation. And while everybody on quarantine, I know that Tourism Board was working really hard to change the plans, and we are happy that as AHA we also were part of some projects in development. And I'd like to encourage everybody, even the speakers, to give the questions to each other, because I know that we haven't seen for a long time. You can have some questions, particularly with some countries, and also the participants who are registered to give the questions at the end. So I'd like to move to next speaker, our AHA president, Martin Kleiman. And yet we already, Florian gave insightful speech about Azerbaijan situation. I'd like to ask from Martin about the local hospitality challenges in Azerbaijan. Yet they are same with the other countries, I know, but what we have lived here, would you like to share your insights, please?
Thank you very much, Günay. Colleagues, friends, thank you for joining. I mean, Jens, I'm extremely grateful for your time, and obviously our neighboring countries and partner, Thomas from Hotelleriesuisse, who is cooperating with us on some exciting things that we want to implement. I guess everybody understood the situation that our industry is in, so I spare further negativity on around that. The situation is clear. Yes, we were not told by the government to close our businesses, but as previously mentioned also with Florian, the lack of business clearly forced many of our hotels to close, and a lot of them still remain closed. There are a few hotels operational. We've seen domestic travel is not possible, therefore lack of business. International travel representing 70% of the businesses for hotels. It speaks for itself. The only business that seems to be out there is related to oil and gas. Obviously, with this pandemic, every operations needs to really ensure that they protect themselves, and so it seems that some of the oil and gas companies are making use of hotels to kind of secure their workforce that is predominantly working offshore on the platforms in order to kind of keep them safe and amongst themselves in order to avoid the spread. Clearly, it's not sustainable, neither for hotels, that comes without say, but also for the oil and gas industry, every industry that is related to it, because it obviously adds additional cost. For me, the way I see it, I think we're in a good position that we have a hotel association, and I've seen that AHA has taken a very important function here. I'm not talking about just our member hotels. I talk about hospitality in general. And in essence, we're doing what we want to do. We want to be the voice of hospitality. Günay has done an incredible job, talking to members, answering questions, but also collecting the information and consolidating information that we can pass it on to the state tourism agency and the tourism board, who have been extremely supportive. Florian has shared on the support packages, which are much appreciated. I have to be honest, as this situation extends longer than everybody would have hoped or expected, I think it is important that there will be additional support mechanisms in place. Clearly, it helped April and May that the government supported the salaries. I mean, we're in a people's business. We have a lot of employees. We're eager to protect all of our jobs. But now, being in July is the second month where the support has ceased. We clearly hope that there will be some consideration moving forward. I think what's also important, what hotels here in Azerbaijan start to appreciate, is the fact that we are part of HOTREC. So Jens, thank you again to you and your team for sharing information, collecting information. You survey and you share what other countries are doing. I think that's the perfect time for us to share best practices. Yes, destinations in general compete for tourism and travelers, but I think today, the entire world faces the same challenges and has the same goal. How do we prepare our industry for recovery? And, there are certain countries that have more resources, that have more technical expertise. So clearly we here in Azerbaijan benefit a lot from your work and from your help. And I think that's where our association is also extremely important, because we can disseminate the information to all of our hotels. So thank you very much for that. I want to, thank some of the hotels and especially the employees that are here in the country supporting the government in the fight of the pandemic. We have about 40 hotels that serve as quarantine facilities or as temporary facilities for doctors and nurses. I have to say I'm extremely proud of them, and I thank them and the employees that really risk their well-being and their health in order to support the country in that. And there again, Florian, thank you as well for your support in ensuring that those hotels receive some sort of a support and compensation for the services that they do. For us, obviously no business, but there is still a lot to be done. I think one of the things that's really important, as Florian mentioned, and I don't go into the details, is the Sachman project. Every international hotel company has their own programs. We have All Safe, Lead We Care, it's Accor or Four Seasons, Marriott, Hilton, everybody has. Here in Azerbaijan, we're in a situation that we only have a very limited number of international hotels. I mean, we have 14 or 15 hotels out of the 600 plus that we have. So therefore, I think it was key for us as a destination to really have a program that is for the entire country, that is vetted and endorsed by the World Health Organization. And we as the Hotel Association are now extremely active in ensuring that hotels implement, get certified, and follow the process. So there is a lot of activity on our end with webinars as well, trainings that we have. We have our international companies extremely actively involved, sharing their best practices. I think that's one thing that we also have to really acknowledge, that whatever information hotels have, nobody is shying away from sharing it. It's all for the common good. And for us, looking at what we're really doing or wanted to do, we actually wanted to start already our national classification program. We're an implementing member now, so thank you as well to the Hotel Stars Union and to Hotrick again, and to Thomas from Hotelleriesuisse, who is the partner in our implementation. We're now looking at September, where we're starting the national classification, and there again, thanks to Florian. Florian generously confirmed that all the hotels that at the moment are supporting the government as quarantine facilities, the government will take care of all the costs and charges related to the classification. So we kind of combine the national classification and the standardization with the Sachman project. I think that's one of the things that becomes clear, that it's all about health. It's all about sanitation. That is the environment that we as hotels, but also the other supply chain has to really ensure. We know that only as a destination together, we can be successful, and therefore our aim is really to get everybody on board. Well, I'm happy to answer any questions later in the Q&A. For now, I really just say thank you for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Look forward to working with you to get us all stronger and better through this situation, because one thing we all know, at some point it will be over, people will travel again, and will experience our beautiful country. Thank you very much. Thanks, good night.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you. I'd like to add yes, Azerbaijan takes very serious the preventive measures, the sanitation, hygiene, which is actually, we make a lot of webinars about that. We make a lot of studies and monitorings. That's how we support a lot. And yes, the industry takes it very serious. So we're getting ready to get normal. So you know how Azerbaijan is very fast in action. So, and let's move to our next speaker. I'm happy to welcome you, Thomas, and happy to see you from Switzerland. Let's talk about the general situation in Switzerland. Which new standards and preventive measures for reopening the Switzerland government support programs? What is going on there? Please share with us your insights.
Thank you, Gunnar. maybe just before I talk about the actual situation, I explain a little bit the situation in Switzerland. We had in 2019 an all-time record in overnight stays. So we were over 39 million overnight stays. And we started very well at the beginning of 2020 and hoped to break the 40 million overnight stays. And it's important to know that half of all the overnight stays are from abroad and the other half are from Swiss citizens. But there was a shift in the last years from European markets to China, to Asia in general, but also the United States, who were extremely growing the last years. So it were exactly the markets that are missing now that were the growing markets during the last years. So we were very strongly hit from this lockdown, which took place in Switzerland on the 15th of March. And then within 1 week, in the Alpine regions, all hotels closed because they finished their winter season earlier than it was planned. And the hotels in Switzerland were not closed by government because they were regarded as systemically relevant for hospitals, also for military and civil people who were planned to support if the crisis would become more severe in the hospitals. So, but nevertheless, end of April, 50% of all hotels in Switzerland were closed. And the main problem we had was liquidity. So the government reacted very fast, and within 1 week, every hotel, every business, not only hotel, could get a credit from their home bank of a minimum 500,000 Swiss francs without any guarantee. So it was very fast, a thing which never happened in Switzerland. And in the meantime, the support by the government for the whole industry is about 50 billion, which for Switzerland is a huge amount. And the support was really fantastic. Short time work was introduced by 90% of all hotels and restaurants in Switzerland. So you see the situation, because occupancy went down to 10% from 60 to 70%, which is the normal occupancy in the first half of the year. Now the situation actual is the frontiers are open, so Schengen room is possible to travel, but we have restrictions for 40 countries that if you come from a country, also from Azerbaijan, that you have to go into quarantine for at least 10 days. So this doesn't support international travel. But as all the countries, as Jens mentioned, are now fighting for their own residents. So we make a lot of campaigns for Swiss residents to make holidays in Switzerland and the Alpine region. The summer season started fantastically. I wanted to make a reservation for this weekend for my family. No chance. All hotels are fully booked in the Alpine regions. But in the big cities, it is dramatic because Zurich, Basel, and Geneva have occupancies of 10 to 15%. And we also made a survey end of June amongst our members. And in Geneva and in Basel, 50% of all hotels are still closed. And in Geneva, 17% of the hotels are afraid that they go bankruptcy end of the year. So the chance of being bankrupt end of the year is higher than 60% for more than 1/4 of the hotels in Geneva. Geneva is a very international destination like Zurich. So they depend on 80% of foreign travelers, and these foreign travelers came from intercontinental flights, and there is nothing at all. So the situation in the big cities is very dramatical. Switzerland Tourism is trying to make a campaign a little bit taped. So they started with promoting Switzerland for the Swiss residents end of May, when it was again allowed to make leisure travel, because it was not only for for essential travel allowed. And now they're starting some small campaigns amongst Germany, Austria, and also the European countries. But it's very difficult, because people are really afraid of traveling in abroad, because they never know if they have to stay in quarantine. And the problem is that you go in a country which is not 100% safe, and if you come back, you have to stay at home. You are not paid by the employer. Two things to mention which might be interesting for you. We launched, Switzerland Tourism launched a campaign which is called Safe and Clean, knowing that Switzerland, according to TripAdvisor, is one of the safest and cleanest countries, so they wanted to act on these two aspects. And we had to elaborate protection plans for being allowed to reopen the hotels, the restaurants, the seminars, and also the wellness infrastructure. And they had to be accepted by the government. And now this campaign, which is launched by Switzerland Tourism, which gives a logo, clean and safe, access on these protections plans. So if hotel can prove that they implemented the protection plans as it has to be, and that they communicate to the guests everything they did openly and transparent, they get this label and can make promotion with that. This is one thing. The other thing is that, especially from the corporate business, these companies which start travel slowly, they demand from the hotels COVID certification. So they want an external audit from a company like SGS or others, which prove that they are COVID-free. You never can prove that you are COVID-free, but you make regular control, and also with lab tests and so on. And we have an agreement now with SGS, a very effective, very cheap, at least for Switzerland, solution for COVID certification, which can be for small hotels an easier solution, and for big hotels, for big chains, a complete solution also with hygiene and so on. So if anybody's interested, it's SGS is an international company, and they can also offer it in abroad. So this is, in short words, the situation in Switzerland.
Thank you, Thomas. And how the hotels monitor with the third-party inspection? It's I don't know, the guests are also giving the COVID test, or how it's going? Actually, while you have your borders open, is the traveler should pass the test before coming? What is the procedure now?
No, it's not. It's not mandatory. There are some hotels which make the temperature tests for their employees, and also the COVID tests once a week. And they also make a test of temperature if for every guest when they arrive at the hotel. But you know, you never have 100% security that then you are COVID-free. Yeah. The COVID certificate from SGS is more a hygiene control, where they look if the protection concept is according to the international and national standards. And also they make lab analysis in 6 to 8 places within the hotel.
Great. I think the preventive measures are same almost everywhere. It's a nice sign. And I think with good preventive measures, we can fight it out. And yes, we have a lot of news from different countries. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for giving us a brief. And I wish every country here for the fast recovery process. I'd like to move now to Turkey with so many touristic places and hotels. I know which challenges you faced and what are you doing to recover now. Could you please tell us more about that, Uygar Bey? Welcome to our webinar and thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Güvenli. I appreciate that. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And we are all together in this. This is the only opportunity that I see. Now it actually again build some bridges between countries, between industries, and hopefully this will a new opening for all entire world. In Turkey, it's a big touristical country, as you know. Last year, we had 52 million people visited Turkey. Previously, it was 40 million, so it was up 13.7%. It was a big number. We were not even expecting that. And then our revenue was 35 billion previous year, and this year actually we were hoping to have 41 billion dollars as a revenue, and the reality now it will be 7 billion. So unfortunately, around 36 billion is 35 billion is not around. And that's a big effect in our country. But this is very normal in this situation. And then we realized that around March, I would say, yeah, February, because I work for Marriott International, and we start to receive news around December, January, because Marriott has 350 hotels in China. And then I was one of the first one with Armin, which is the country manager for Hilton. We both warned our association that the big hit is coming. So, and actually, as a Turkish Hoteliers Association, we were the first one warn our ministry. And I like to highlight that in this period, our ministry worked very closely with NGOs. One of ours. We were very close to each other, and we work. I mean, our minister, we could WhatsApp message to him. I mean, that close. So we were very happy to see that, because over the years we kind of felt lonely in this tourism sector. But our minister is also from our industry, and we've been working very closely with him. I have actually a little presentation, not little, but I will go very fast. So let me share my screen.
Yes, sure. Nuray, could it be helpful?
I think you can see it now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you enlarge it just?
Okay. See, that's me. I'm a general manager of Le Méridien Istanbul Otelciler, and I've been working for Marriott for 4 years now. And what happened in Turkey, as many countries, we right after the pandemic, we sorry about that. Basically, Turkey closed the borders, like many countries. All the restaurants, bars, cafes, it was closed. And then there is, of course, the pandemic plan started, and border security, travel restrictions. These are all implied, and of course, and everything in this manner against the tourism. So we got hit really bad. January 30th, we Turkish Airlines stopped flying to China. It's just another thing, actually. You know, Turkish Airlines is really big, and that this pandemic affected Turkish Airlines really negatively as well. and I'm hoping they recover faster than we all hope. Basically, we announced the first case on March 11th, and then all the schools closed. Additional travel restrictions, and we started curfews and lockdowns. I mean, unlike many other countries, we had we tried many different things, like weekend lockdowns. It was or 65 years or older, and also under 18 years old, we applied these lockdowns. We applied some curfews. Government support wise, basically, accommodation tax was underway, and the government was planning on applying that tax on April. Well, they delayed that to January 1st, but of course it didn't help us anyway. And then of course some other tax requirements was delayed by government. But the biggest support we had was a short-term working grant program. This really helped us a lot because government started to pay 60% of our associates' salaries. This was a great help, and it's still undergoing until August 16. Actually, this needs to continue in Turkey, and we are doing everything to show that hotels really relies on that. As Thomas said, otherwise many hotels will bankrupt because in hotels labor is the big thing, and right now government is supporting us significantly, and I'm hoping this continue at least until October. Right now in Istanbul, majority of hotels are still closed. July 1st, some of them open. One of them is my hotel, but the occupancy is around 10 to 15%. Over the weekends, it goes up 20%, and we have some local business going on. Now we have some guests from United Kingdom because now the borders are open, and we have some guests from some Middle East countries. And when we look at Antalya area, Antalya is unfortunately suffering because Antalya is majority of the Antalya hotels receiving guests from, as you know, Europe or Russia. But Western Turkey is doing very well because of the local market, like Bodrum, Çeşme. I mean, those areas, Göcek, doing very well because of the local business. As you maybe know, that many of the Turks visit also Greece during this time. Now we cannot visit Greece, and so many of the Turks stays in Asian Turkey, and those hotels are doing well. And also the luxury hotels are doing very well. We are very surprised because I know our brands like Edition, Luxury Collection, those hotels are doing extremely well at this moment. Well, not say extremely well, but well compared to many other hotels. Well, the normalization process, we have, of course, control social life. We call it, we are wearing masks in Istanbul, Izmir, in major cities, masks are required. And the cases right now under 1,000 per day, and the death number is under 20 now. So every day is going better. And I want to say that as a hotelier, that our also Minister of Health, I think, did a fantastic job. And many of the people actually questioned if the numbers are real or not. But we have many doctors, friends, and everybody telling that our hospitals are empty right now. And we are actually, now there are some pandemic hospitals, and even those hospitals around 30%. I'd like a little bit mention about the airports. Right now at the airports, guests actually have an opportunity to test, actually make a test. Also, within 2 hours, they can wait for PCR test results, and then 135 different places they can do that. I'm mentioning about this. There is another reason for it. In Turkey, we have a new program. In this program, if guests get sick, if you realize it as a hotel, and if the guest goes to hospital, the hospital sends them back, as a hotel, we need to accommodate them. It's a requirement now by government. And there are actually, I mean, I don't want to go through entire because I have a limited time. But as a hotel, we can purchase actually insurance. It's like if we there are numbers actually for it. Let me show you. Like if it's €10 per day per guest, it covers €100 and maximum €1,500. Basically, what happens is Turkish government wants to give security to our visitors. Like they say, if you get sick here, we know that it's a difficult situation. Maybe you cannot go back to your country, so we'll take care of you. We actually give this security to any visitors visiting Turkey right now. Of course, as a hoteliers association, we were like, oh, how are we gonna do this? And it's very difficult, but actually it's working now. We are guaranteeing the guests, if the guest gets sick, and we'll actually treat them in Turkey. Actually, I have basically one more thing that I like to mention is the Safe Tourism Program. It's again a mandatory program for hotels. As you see, we have many companies, international companies, authorized accreditation institutions, TÜV or SGC, I mean, very much so, Royal Sat, many companies doing this, actually coming and auditing our hotels. And the many hotels already got this certification. Again, we work in this program with the ministry together very closely. I think the outcome is fantastic to me because I already travel a couple different hotels and a couple different weekends and doing very well. And this after you receive the certificate, every month auditor will come and visit us, and also there will be a secret guest auditing our hotels. So I'm sure this gives our visitors, I mean, this will help our visitors rebuilding their trust and the confidence. I think the most important thing in these days, rebuilding the trust and the confidence. This is so important, and giving under these conditions. So thank you, Güvenli. That's all I have. And if anybody have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you very much, Uygar Bey. This is very impressive how Turkey took serious, and I know this country takes very quick measures on the crisis management. This is really impressive, and I think as a best practice, we can learn a lot. And thank you very much for your presentation. I'd like to move to the last but not the least. Yes, sure, Thomas.
May I ask a question to
Yes, sure.
This certification which you showed at the end, does this include also laboratory analysis, or is it only control on the spot?
Just the control on the spot, yeah.
Okay.
Control on the spot.
Yeah, thank you.
But it's done on the monthly basis, as I hear the news, and yes, every single property should go monthly through the inspection.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to move to last but not the least speaker, our neighbor, Georgia. Welcome, Inga, from Horeca, Georgia. And yes, we get positive news about the Georgia, that you don't have a lot of cases and how you actually manage this crisis situation. Being a small but touristic country, I'd like to hear from you the actions taken from your country and also from the association, because also I mentioned not only government but all other institutions are also very actively participating in the process, which is a good sign. And yes, welcome again, and please, we'd like to hear from you.
Hello, glad to present Horeca Georgia, the Federation of Georgian Restaurants, Hotels, Restaurants and Cafes. Let me share my presentation. And, okay, is it shared? No, not yet.
Yes, yes, we can see it.
You can see that. Okay, great. So to assess today's situation in the country, I think we have to overlook on the past few years when the tourism has developed so much and so quickly in Georgia. So those data are taken from our tourism department. We don't have the special Ministry of Tourism, but it is just a part of the big Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and so on. So number of visitors for the last 5 years, in the number of visitors in Georgia has increased from 6 million to over 9 million. That is twice as more as the whole population of the country. That is less than 4 million people living here. And top countries that are visiting Georgia are Azerbaijan, mainly neighbors, Azerbaijan, Russia, Armenia, Turkey, Ukraine, and next is Eastern Europe, and then Western Europe, and so on. That's the numbers from the last 2 years, as you see. And every year, the number of the visitors from those countries has been increased. And the next table is about for us it was important to analyze this tourist development in the country, the main purpose of the visitors. So main purpose mainly was the leisure and entertainment. As you know, most of the
Inga, I'm sorry, we cannot see you. We cannot see next slide. Can you move forward?
This one?
We don't see the slide, yes.
Really? It's on my screen. It's so strange. I think...
Yes, now, yes.
Now you can see that?
Yes.
I think it's maybe internet problems. I don't know. So, yeah, and I wanted to say that most of our neighbors have some friends or relatives in the country, so almost 1/5 part of the visitors and tourists were visiting their relatives and friends. Georgia is the transit country and kind of corridor for all our neighbors, and not just only for them. That is why it was a big number of transit visitors in the country. Business purpose was just for 10% of the visitors. And what's strange, besides we have so many resorts and mineral waters and so on, less than 2% of visitors were visiting country for the wellness or treatment issue. Those were mainly our neighbors from post-Soviet countries, and Israel, also citizens of ex-citizens of the Soviet Union, that they still remember at the Georgian resort that was very popular during the Soviet time all over the country. And another important data that we have to analyze and plan and forecast the future of the HoReCa sector in Georgia is accommodation. So just less than 35% were staying at hotels. Mainly, as I mentioned it already, around 20% of the visitors were visiting their friends and their relatives. So it's logical that over 23% were staying to the friends. Apartment renting is quite a popular type of business in Georgia. And what's also important, here you see the number of private apartments. A lot of foreigners are buying real estates in Georgia because they like to visit this country time to time, or they or their friends. That's why around 9% of the visitors were staying in their private apartments. And beside the number of transits, visitors were over 16% in the country. Just 1.5% of them were staying, I mean the drivers, transit drivers, were staying in the camping or trailers parks. Mainly they were using hostels and guest houses. Why this is important to assess, we'll see further. So my next slide is about GDP, input of Georgian tourism in country economy. It also was increasing for the last 10 years, as you see, and for the last year it was over 8%. So what kind of situation we have since end of February in the country. So first 2 months of this year was quite okay, and tourism was increasing because we have the ski resorts also, and we had a lot of visitors from again neighboring country for skiing and so on. But on 28th of February, the first infected person was registered on the border of Georgia. The person was traveling from Iran through Azerbaijan, and he was registered on the border from Azerbaijan to Georgia. On the same day, another person was also registered on the border. She was flying from Italy, citizen of Georgia again. And it's very important to mention, it was a Friday, 28th of February. And we have very good team of infectionist doctors, so on, and the government is collaborating and listening to them. So on the weekend, they announced that from the next Monday, from 2nd of March, all the educational centers, kindergarten, schools, universities were totally closed all over the country. And very soon, at 16th of March, we had already state emergency in the country. That means all the hotels also were closed. Most of the international flights also were stopped. And emergency state lasts over 2 months. In between of we had also very strict weeks when we were not allowed to go outside from 9 p.m. till 6 a.m. and step by step from 11th of also 4 big cities of the country were totally closed, like Tbilisi, Batumi, Kutaisi, Rustam. 4 biggest cities also were closed for 3 weeks almost. And at the 22nd of May, just the last municipality was opened and the lockdown was lifted all over the country. And it is, and what's the situation about the COVID? Yes, we have very few number of infections because of these measures, and also in addition, all the public transport also was locked down, and all the restaurants and all the businesses and so on. And today we have just a little bit over 1,000 infected persons in the country, just 15 died. Most of infections are coming from the outside. Those are citizens of Georgia coming infected in the country, and very few, we don't have such a big spread of infection within the country. That is why all the citizens of the country crossing the border, coming home, they have to undergo 2 weeks quarantine. It's mandatory for them, no matter from which country they are coming. Till today, this measure works like that. So, yeah, the data about the COVID situation is that we have around 250 top cases of infection for 1 million population. So situation regarding the COVID-19 is quite kind of safe in the country, but this happens because of the country's kind of closed and locked down. Another trick is that we are the transit countries, And a lot of international drivers are crossing the country, and most of them are infected. And every day, there are some Georgian citizens that are also working as international transit drivers, and yeah, they are bringing the infection at the country. But daily we have maximum 5-10 new infection cases. That's the situation for today. There are some days that we have just 2 cases, maybe 3. Maximum is 10. So what about the businesses? Oh my gosh, I can, okay. So government, of course, the hospitality sector was the sector that suffered maybe most for the COVID-19. So government makes some actions to support this sector, tourism sector. So they postponed the payment of taxes for tourism industry till 1st of November. We are talking about 18,000 companies. They've run the governmental program to support hotels with 450 rooms, around 2,000 hotels. They will get the co-financing from government for the bank loans. There is not the common rules for every hotel, for every case. There is a separate negotiation and agreement with the bank, but there is some support from the government. Government also leaves the communal service cost for the tourism industry companies, and also get the compensations amount of 200 lari for 6 months till November from May. That was paid to the employee who had suffered from COVID-19, and all the small entrepreneurs get very small compensation, around 300 lari. Also, government helped to pay to the tourism companies for taxes, for rental costs, whose rental cost was under 5,000 lari. Government paid 30% of their rent. And also, nowadays, the government is running a grant and support and developing programs for the tourism. Especially we are talking about the domestic tourism and tourism in the rural area. That is the next priority for the country. Yes, and another support, as I've mentioned it already, every Georgians crossing the border coming home, they have to take 2 weeks, 14 days quarantine in the hotels. It's on state money, and government has had contracted 87 hotels around the country in different regions close to the borders. We have several gates, you know, in all parts of the country. And per person, government was paying around 100 lari, depending on the hotel per person. Around 20,000 persons have hosted for 2 weeks those hotels already, and this program is still running. And even in the next months, every Georgians coming from any country have to take this quarantine period in the hotels. So what about the business reopening? As I've mentioned it, in the middle of March, all the businesses mostly in the hospitality sector especially was locked down. And as at the end of the May, this state emergency period was over, little by little, step by step, businesses started reopening. But to reopen any type of business, they have to apply for the monitoring, and there is a special monitoring group that is visiting the company, the business, assessing their safety, like health and safety measures. We have the special guidelines about the rules. It's all about the distancing and the disinfection and so on and so on. It's like in the various countries, we are sharing their experience. So after getting this permission, they are allowed to reopen the business, but that doesn't mean that they will be monitored just once. It could be, there is no special schedule, but they could be monitored time to time, especially if there would be some alarms, some signals from the customers about those businesses. And not following the rules, they will get quite big penalties, by the way, and the business will be closed. So from the beginning of, just from the beginning of June, open space restaurants were allowed to open, keeping all these distancing and disinfection measures. In 1 week, all type of restaurants and hotels also reopened in the country. And very soon opened. So for today, in 1 month, all type of businesses are opened, including gym and fitness and swimming pool and so on. So nowadays, every type of business is reopened in Georgia. And here we have the online map that is on the website of Tourism Department. You can see here the hotels that are operating for today. And this map could be changed every day. So at the beginning, there were very few hotels, and nowadays there are much more. For whom those hotels are operating, of course, for the domestic, for the inner tourism, government, because till today, all the borders are closed, and government is supporting much domestic tourism, having a lot of promotion, discover your own country, discover what is your, and this type of promotions. As you see, a lot of hotels are open next to the sea coast. Before, we had a lot of visitors from the neighboring countries on the Black Sea beaches. Nowadays, again, Georgians, just only Georgians, and those foreigners who stayed in the country for this lockdown period. There are quite a lot in the country, don't be surprised. Besides the borders are closed, you can see a lot of foreigners in Georgia. And sometimes people are mistaken that tourism is, international tourism is reopened, but no, not yet. So when the borders will be opened? Georgia has agreement and is opening the borders unconditionally for 5 EU countries from 1st of August. This is Germany, France, and 3 Baltic countries. So unconditionally, it means that citizens of those countries who have not traveled for the last 2 weeks in other out of these 5 countries, they can enter in the country without any quarantine or PCR testing, whatever. Just they don't have to have temperature at the border. That's all. For the other EU member states who have not opened the border to Georgia, the status quo will be maintained by Georgians as well. So mainly to say more understandable, it means that for 13 other EU member states citizens, the country will be open for 1st of August, but they have to take 2 weeks quarantine on their own expenses. Business visitors to Georgia are obliged to carry out a PCR test for COVID-19 at their own expenses every 3 days, 72 hours, or complete all this mandatory 2 weeks quarantine also on their own expenses. And there is a negotiation, as mainly all the regular flights were stopped in the country for the last 4 or 5 months. Now government has negotiation with 3 big companies like Lufthansa, Air Baltic, and Air France. And from August, we'll have regular flights from these by these 3 companies, once, twice per week. There would be other commercial and charter flights as well. And why we are so careful about the reopening? Besides yesterday, it was a surprise for me that Prime Minister declared that activities beyond the tourism sector are clearly growing. He meant domestic tourism because we don't have international tourism for a while. But Minister of Economy, and I mean mainly the government, they have this attitude that we have to keep this clean and less infected country status. That's why tourism reopening may have a rapid effect followed by rapid negative results and problems. That's why we are careful not to repeat other countries' mistakes and learn from them. And that's what the Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia declared yesterday. And that's why we are so careful and sensitive about the border reopening and all these safety measures. What about the role of the HoReCa Georgia in all this process? So first, it was like for our rapidly developed tourism industry and hospitality sector, it was a shock when in 2 weeks everything was locked down and they were kind of lost. We had this mission at the beginning of mediator and maybe giving them some information, mediating with government to get some support and so on. We also are now working on to gain some financial support for the hospitality sectors to help them for the bank loans payment. And another, as you mentioned, in Azerbaijan, we also are starting this Hotel Star Union classification process. We've already translated all these classification criteria, and from autumn, we'll promote this Hotel Stars classification within the country. That's briefly and very fast about the situation in Georgia.
Thank you, Inga. Thank you very much. That was really detailed and informative. I believe everybody got.
Thank you. I've tried to explain you the situation, to give the vision what's going in this country. And as the main visitors we had from the neighboring countries and the borders with them are closed, and I don't think that it will be opened soon. So now tourism industry changed the priority. Now more accent would be on the business tourism, because that's the role Georgia can play within the region, due to the situation around. And we are not expecting big groups from any countries, actually, to be honest. And the hotels also don't have this expectation, at least in this year.
Yeah, agree. It's, I think, same for everybody. The careful reopening is something we have to be really careful. Thank you very much. I think we're a little bit out of time. I don't know whether we have time for Q&A, and I'd like to give 2 or 3 questions maximum. Nuray, could you go through them and finalize, because I know how busy our speakers are.
Yeah, I will just ask several questions, which are, I think, interesting. First question to Ms. Inga from HoReCa, Georgia. What about Georgia border and tourism? Which markets are you expecting this year? And also one comment from our attendees that we have scheduled Congress at the end of November in Batumi. What's your reopening conditions for Turkish citizens and tourists?
Actually, situation is changing every day in Georgia, and the same about the numbers of countries that we are reopening the borders or not reopening and so on. I think it's the same in every country. So Georgia is not the exception, and we have to keep fingers on the pulse, kind of, to be updated about every news and every changes that's going on here. As I've mentioned it, that the country is open for the business tourism. I don't know particularly about the citizens of Turkey, but I believe very soon the situation will be changed again, and there could be some exceptions, maybe some careful measures to keep safety of the country. Maybe they are talking about the COVID insurance again, or PCR testing on the border, as I mentioned it, in every 3 days. Kind of, there is these regulations, but for the especially business tourism, country will be opened.
Thank you, Inga. Can I also ask you to stop sharing your screen, please?
Oh, sorry. Stop share. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next question we have for Florian. Dear Florian, can you please say if there's any campaign planned for international visitors similar to Macera Yakındadır?
We have launched 2018 Take Another Look brand with Experience Azerbaijan. For now, you see on my screensaver, it's still Experience Azerbaijan later. We will basically revive our brand new campaign, take another look, and we'll add some new spice to it when launching it for the international market. The Maceraya Agendada is really a domestic campaign built for domestic travelers, giving also providing different services, and as also Inga mentioned, also here our message is like the adventure is near. So basically, this is the address to locals.
Thank you, Florian. I want to ask last two questions, not to waste time. One question to Martin. Martin, how do you think that this crisis will affect competitiveness of our hotels? With
honestly, I think every crisis means a lot of opportunities, and with the measures taken here in the country, in particular, I'm looking now primarily at the Sahman project in order for us to present us as a destination hospitality, as an industry, as a clearly safe place to visit. I think we're going to get out much stronger from this crisis than anybody possibly could imagine. So I'm very bullish. Clearly, we have to be realistic. It will take some time. It doesn't happen from one day to the other, and it requires a lot of work. It requires everybody to pull together. And it's easy to set up a program and put it on paper. Implementation, execution is what we need. And that's the only thing that I can really, urge all of the hoteliers to really support the cause, support one another, and then we're going to be in an incredible strong position.
Thank you, Martin. One question is addressed to Thomas from Hotelleriesuisse. How tourists are affected by the crisis? Do they think that Swiss is safe to travel because you didn't have that much quarantine regime?
Yes, I think and I hope so. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So every hotel has to show to the guests, or in Switzerland everywhere, that they do everything to assure the highest safetyness for the guests. And I think we are on a very high level, but what I hear today, what is done in other countries also for governmental side, tranquilizes me that I think it will also be an opportunity for us to travel soon also in abroad and be as sure as in Switzerland.
Thank you, Thomas. Next question I want to address to Mr. Uygar Koçaş from TÜROB. Questions like this: how tourists are traveling to Turkey as your cases are still under 1,000, and also how mass tourism is affecting?
Starting from the bottom, mass tourism is affecting really bad. I mean, I talk about Antalya, and the occupancy is around 20%. Our major markets are Russia and Germany, and they are both closed. So, like Azerbaijan even is a big market for us, for Antalya area. So yeah, the mass tourism is affected really bad right now. And then, well, as I mentioned during my presentation, right now in Turkey, from transportation to hotel, and to hotel to restaurants, I mean, and each step you have to get certified right now as a touristical country. And we are so into that. And also airports, as I mentioned, we have 135 different points that you can get PCR tested. And also, I think I don't know if there's any other country that if you get sick during your visit, that the country can treat you. I mean, we are paying your hotels, we are even paying for your food and beverage expenses. I don't think there's any other country that guarantee you to take care of you. So I think this is a big step. I think that's the only thing I can tell you.
Thank you, thank you. We got also one more question to you. How these preventive measures that you are taking affecting the price strategies in hotels? Is the price go up or it's the same?
Well, it again depends of the hotel type, and right now, if you are in leisure hotel in Asian site in Bodrum, or the prices are up. I mean, even higher than last year. In Antalya, I think it's pretty steady compared to last year. And Istanbul, I mean, we are talking to Middle Eastern agencies. They try to lower our prices down, but it's basically, I wouldn't support that lowering our prices, because this hygiene, the new standards actually cost money as well. And also we have to take care of our associates as well. You know, this is another thing. And that, I mean, people usually see the front of the house areas, and there's a back of the house areas as well. So this adds more cost onto us. So and also it's not a supply and demand thing. I mean, this is very interesting time. Never seen this before. So I wouldn't think that the prices will go down. At least it will stay steady.
Thank you, Uygar. Next question is to Mr. Christensen, Hotrec President. The question is like this: as we all know, you were in communication with Booking.com recently in regards to pricing strategy in Europe. How this communication is now, in which stage?
You were mentioning Booking.com. We've had some meetings to try to find common ground. It is no secret that when the COVID-19 crisis hit, Booking.com came out and declared a force majeure on their own, so to speak. And a lot of hotels have been compelled to pay back prepayments, to return prepayments. We were not very happy about that, because it was done in a rather brutal way, so to speak, really not allowing hotels to negotiate with the individual customers. But we have reached an agreement that all reservations made after April 7th, the guests are more on their own than they used to be. But that is basically a little too late. But anyway, that's where the situation is. It is no secret that Booking.com and also other OTAs, they mean a lot to the hotels, even the big chains, whether we like it or not. So you can say it is, I can term it like this, it is a business partner that we love to hate. But nevertheless, they will also be here in the future. They have had their own troubles, so have all the OTAs, as you know. I agree with Martin that those who survive, they will be stronger. And let me use the opportunity to thank Hotrec members, which are recognized on the screen, for their support. It means a lot to us, and looking forward to continue working with you. And as said, we will have to stand together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was the last question actually for now, and I want to pass the floor again to Güner.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to thank each of our speakers for their impact and work, what they're doing, as well as joining AHA webinar today. I'd like to close our webinar with positive note from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' words that tourism can be a platform for overcoming the pandemic. By bringing people together, tourism can promote solidarity and trust, And with these words, I'd like to close our webinar and thank you, and looking forward to see you in Azerbaijan. And we're looking forward to travel again. I know HOTREC is going to have another meeting in October in Oslo. So looking forward to see you all there. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye and thank you. Goodbye.